Well, yes, indeed. You asked for it, and now you have it. So we remember this particular video. So have a look at this one.
It's often funny to hear that you are talking down on people simply because you don't agree. You don't have to agree with everything anybody says. No, you don't have to. But it doesn't tantamount to talking down on anybody. It was just an irritation. It was just an irritation. And some people just want to cause irritation in the country. And what I'd like to say is that when things boil over, they boil over because you continue to hit them. And when you see pockets of heating up in the country all over the place, eventually they culminate in a heating up, in a boiling over. So Nigerians need to know that the country we get is what we use our own hands to build.
Okay, well, there was actually other parts where, of course, it's a longer interview. So he did speak about the protest that interview was on the 6th of August, actually. Well, he joins us this morning, Mr. Femi Adesina, to give some perspective on that. Good morning, and thank you for joining us today on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Well, there was a lot of hoopla about what happened at that point in time. So people thought, whoa, wait a minute, they're really minutes into it, even though, yes, it was eventually put out that that interview did happen on the 6th of August when we were discussing the Revolution Now protest. And albeit they still thought that the way it came out, well, some just wouldn't have it. What's your reaction to all that has been happening on social media about that particular video and the protests?
Well, let me start by saying thank you to Channels TV for being so very professional, for being fair-minded, because when some people doctored that video and made it look as if it was a fresh interview, Channels came out to clarify the situation, that it was indeed an old interview, and put out a date that it was August 6th this year. So thank you, Channels, for fair-mindedness and for professionalism. Then the fact that some people doctored a video recorded on August 6th and made it look like something contemporary shows the times and seasons and the milieu in which we live is a milieu of falsehood, of misinformation, of disinformation, of generating hate against other people. And it's very sad and unfortunate.
But as it turns out now, putting him back in this particular context, because they all seem to be so concerned about the current state of the protest, which is SARS, SWAT, so different acronyms come up at different times. So what is your impression about the ones going on now?
Well, we are in a democracy. And in a democracy, protests will always be legitimate. But protests must also stay within the bounds of legality. If protests don't lead to anarchy and mayhem, they're okay. But when they verge on anarchy and mayhem, no serious government, no self-respecting government, no government worth its salt will allow that happen. So far, so good. The protests are going on well. Nothing wrong. But when they border on criminality, of course, then the law enforcement agencies will not sit by idling. So far, law enforcement agents are doing well according to the order and rules of engagement they have. If the protests continue to stay within the bounds of legality, there may not be cause to change the order of engagement and rules of engagement they have. And I pray it doesn't change till this ends.
Should the police be told to move against, for instance, those who were saying with cudgels? I'm just asking, should the police wait to be told, or should they be even told to move against those who are going in there violently to attack people, destroy property? Because some of them are described as the pro-SARS protesters, as it were, even hoodlums who infiltrate the protest. They shouldn't be told, should they?
No, I don't know about that. I don't know about pro-SARS or anti-SARS or anything. Protests are protests. But for every outing, the police have their rules of engagement issued by their superior authorities. They must act within those rules of engagement. That's what matters.
Mr. Adishino, on the side, it will look like the way you are positioned now is the same way you were positioned in that other video. Seems like what you were wearing now looked at what you were wearing at the time. So I hope
No,
you still don't get the same.
not exactly. Not exactly.
Okay.
But because I'm in my living room, yes, I sat in this same place.
Exactly. Yeah.
This was not what I wore.
Yeah, but okay, but seriously speaking, now I think one of the issues here now is communication of the actions of government over time.
Yeah.
Consequently, a lot of distrust has built up over time, and that's why it would seem like all the efforts that government has taken so far isn't, isn't telling on the activities of the protesters. Peaceful, coordinated, well organized, and all of that. What do you think the people need to get about what actions government has taken that they are not? Because it doesn't seem to the protesters as if this is going to go anywhere. Let me use their term. It's audio promise. How do you put it? How do you respond?
Well, those who say that will have a right to their opinion. But according to the press reports you just had before this interview started, you see that even the original founders of the NSAS protest are beginning to change their minds and opinions about what is happening now. Because apparently it is veering off the original intention. It's not unlikely that some people are cashing in on it to do some other things. But we know that in Nigeria, we have a government that is trusted. If President Buhari is not trusted, he would not have been re-elected just about a year ago. Those who are protesting have a right to it, but their right does not preclude the rights of 13, 15 million Nigerians who voted in the president. So that's one thing we should know, that where their own rights stop is where the rights of other people begin. All those 13, 15 million people who voted have a right and they have a say in Nigeria. You see that from time to time, their hashtag changes. At times, end SARS, and then you begin to see end the government. Buhari must resign and all that. Does that happen in a democracy? It doesn't. It doesn't happen in a democracy. And the earlier...
Salishina, just one moment. Yes, better. Just one moment. But I don't know if you're also aware that many of the people who voted for the president are also disappointed that things are not happening as quickly as they want. So they are also looking to some activity that will convince them that they voted right.
That position is not scientific. It's not scientific, except you come out with false-figure statistics and you say, these are the numbers. That is when we can believe it. It's not scientific. It could be a conjecture. Yes, but then there will always be people who want quick fixes. And there are certain things in which quick fixes don't work. Governance is one of it. You don't wave a magic wand. You don't wave the magic wand and things change overnight. Some things are processes and procedures. And unless you follow those processes and procedures, they will not happen. And that is what the people should realize. But in terms of loyal followers of the president, they're there. In their many
just to be clear, when you say that position is not scientific, pardon me, are you saying that all those that voted for the president, all the supporters of the president, are happy with the way the government is handling this, with the response the government has given, with the activities of the SARS that eventually led to this protest? Is that what you're saying?
You know that in life, as you go along, some will drop out, but many more will come in. That is what is happening. Some will drop out, others will come in. So unless you do a scientific study, you cannot prove that many more who voted for the president have dropped out than than the numbers of people that have come in.
No, this is
We
not
need to be
about
scientific.
this is not about dropping out or dropping in. We're talking about, reform of the police, the End SARS protest, the fact that these young Nigerians are not happy with the status quo hitherto, with the way they have been treated by the police, and of course wider issues like unemployment, the state of the economy. So those are the issues. This is not about people dropping out. This is about what they can see and what they are saying about it. We've had members of your party voice their concerns about this also. So when you say this is not scientific, it's a bit, I wonder how you mean that. But also, I'd like to, talking about this protest, these protesters say they don't have a head. They say they don't have leaders, that this is just young people coming together to voice their concerns. So I'm thinking, how is the government engaging them specifically? How are you engaging them? If they say they have no head, what ways are you engaging them?
You can see the various levels and theaters of engagement that have come up since this started. The president himself, in his speech, said they were raising genuine concerns, and that the dissolution of SARS is the first step in comprehensive reforms that will come. When the president of the country, the father of the nation, has said that, what else do you expect? He said, this is just the first step. Many more will come. And we have seen things happening. Their 5-point demand, a meeting was conveyed between civil society and the IG, and the presidential panel accepted the 5-point demand. And then you see SARS replaced by SWAT, and the conditions for being a member of SWAT were spelled out yesterday. Engagements are going on. If some people now say, well, we don't trust this engagement, you don't then have to upturn the society because of that. You will have a right to your opinion, you will have a say, but the majority will have their way in the country with law and order. And this is a country with law and order.
Right. So do you still see any reason for the protests to continue today?
I'm not one of the organizers. It is the organizers who will determine whether they want to continue or not. But as long as they do whatever they do within the bounds of the law and within the bounds of order, within the bounds of decency, there will be nothing wrong with it. They will determine when they want to end it.
All right, then. We do thank you for your thoughts this morning, Mr. Femi Adesina, Senior Special Assistant to the President on Media and Publicity. Okay, so now we've been joined by two gentlemen, Mr. Ebunlu Adegborowa, who is a senior advocate of Nigeria, as well as Mr. Ephraim Amakulo, who is a former AIG Zone 8 in Lokoja, both from our studios in Abuja. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, Mr. Adegborowa, let me start with you. There's been different perspectives about what is going on with this protest. How is it proceeding? When will it end? So many questions. But from the response you've seen from the government concerning the protest and what has been going on, what are your thoughts?
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I believe that this was long foretold and expected, given the events that have been happening concerning the way the security agencies have been engaging civil society and indeed the youth. The first thing to, of course, state is that the basic law governing the entity called Nigeria is a constitution. That constitution in section 39 grants to every citizen the freedom of expression without interference. That same constitution in section 40 grants to every citizen the freedom of association and assembly without any disruption. So I believe that those who are organizing the protests are well aware of their rights, and Nigerians support them. And to that extent, it is the responsibility of government and the security agencies to offer them protection for the exercise of their constitutional rights, such that fit columnists and then hoodlums would not infiltrate into their midst, government itself having acknowledged that their grievances are genuine. Now, it's been a long battle in terms of reforming the manner of engagement by the security agencies, especially the police. Now, we have the armed forces in Nigeria. The other arms, the Nigerian Army, the Air Force, the Navy, do not or are not expected to interface with civil society every now and then. It's the police, actually, that is the agency that should be dealing with civilians. But the experience we've had over the years is that in most cases, it would seem that the police is worse than even those other security agencies in terms of the recognition of the rights of citizens, the capacity for investigation through intelligence, the nature of what we see in the police stations that Nigerians and suspects go through in terms of interrogation, torture, and then how people generally do not accept that citizens have a right when they are suspects. That is what is agitating the minds of people, that we need to get the police to accept that when a suspect is arrested, he has rights. And those rights are fundamental, they are basic. The first right, of course, is that he is presumed to be innocent until the contrary is proved. But what we currently have in Nigeria is that once you are arrested, you are to prove your innocence. And that is what is agitating the minds of the youth. That you see us with handsets, you see us with cars, and then you immediately conclude that people are not entitled to those facilities and amenities. And of course, we do support that society should run according to law and order. But the basic right of citizens must be respected by the police. Now, this current protest, I situate it within a lot of context. The first is that it's not just about SARS. End SARS protest is translating to a demand for restructuring. End SARS protest is translating to some kind of vote of no confidence in the responses of government. I mean, you've just stated it from the newspaper analysis. The universities have been closed for months. End-SARS protest is also a declaration of a demand for the reopening of the educational sector. End-SARS protest is addressing the issue of blackout, lack of electricity. End-SARS protest is addressing virtually all issues in our national life. And that's why it's important that government must understand it within that context. But of course, we must make an appeal to the organizers of the protest, as Mr. Femi Adesina has said. It must be peaceful, it must be civil, it must also recognize the rights of others in the entity called Nigeria. And so far, the protesters have kept within that bound, both in Lagos, in Abuja, and other parts of the country. And they must be commended for the civil manner in which they have handled the protest so far. So government should engage them in terms of genuine attempt at addressing the issues. And the first thing, of course, is to set up a Truth and Reconciliation Commission. It's very vital.
Okay. Well, we'll come to some of those points.
Victims of police.
Yeah, pardon me. We'll come to some of those points as we progress. But pardon me, let me bring in Mr. Amakolo on this one. Well, having seen the recent response from some of the protesters who say, well, we don't want SWAT. So they just think that, look, this is just the SARS with a different title. Some have different acronyms describing it. So in that context, was it a good idea for the police to have immediately come up with SWAT right after that dissolution of SARS?
Thank you. I think the idea of SWAT doesn't really solve the problem. It's a matter that the legislature should be concerned about. For many years, they have grappled with the idea of community policing. So the police should, or rather the government should, widen the scope of their security architecture. It shouldn't be a matter for the police alone. There are these NGOs that are everywhere. Good enough, the civil defense is registering them under their program. If they are registered, then the government should engage them. If you recognize the existence of these NGOs, then engage them. look into them and take the good qualities. There are good officers and men among them that you can pick and give your formal security some backup. The formal security, like the police, doesn't have to come face to face with the criminal. It is the vigilante groups that should pick them up from their own interactions, from their own investigations or activities to help, to assist. So by the time they're able to get across and see that there are criminals there or there, then we'll be able to checkmate the idea that some other people will infiltrate. Of course, the infiltration is normal. But the government should not sit back and say, we are government, we are above this, we are above that. It's unfortunate that government up to now has not formulated a policy and say, this is what the security architecture should be.
Yeah, but
formal, informal. Formal
Mr.
should
Makolo,
be assisted by informal.
Could you just, pardon me, could you just give us a background? We just want to understand from your perspective, I mean, as a former senior, very high-ranking police officer, how is it, by the way, that the police or the SARS, the FSARS were able to carry on the way they were for a long while? I mean, from a lot of the complaints, even some of us have experienced it, where, you know, when they arrest persons, they have POSs, they take them to the ATMs, they withdraw. How is it that some of these actions were even able to go on for a long while within the same system?
It is the inactivity of the legislature, of the government.
Legislature?
If the government is aware that these things will come up.
I'm not talking about...
over time, they have to...
pardon me, let me rephrase that question. I'm talking about the activities of SARS that are being protested against today. How that the officials of SARS can arrest you, they have POSs in some of the vehicles, they would take you to ATMs to withdraw monies. So it shows there's a system, it appears as if it's organized. How do they even get POSs? Who gives it to them? Which account do they get those monies into? So how do these things, how did they carry on for a long while without the police even addressing them before this protest came up?
I'm trying to say that the government should look into the police. The police personnel are not angels. They have big responsibility. They have power. The law gives them powers. And these powers are subject to abuses. Accepting the government is up and doing and put the welfare of the police into consideration. Bring in more men. Don't allow police to have less men than they ought to have. So bring in more men to help out. Because if you have senior officers, rank and file, then you have the commanders in the middle, and they are refurbished from time to time.
Okay.
You wouldn't have these problems.
All
They
right.
will be checkmated. But if you sit back and say police alone will not be able to handle. This job is too much for the police.
Wow.
And that
All
is
right.
why you have to bring in the civil society.
Okay, let me take this to just one moment.
With intelligence.
Just one moment. Let me take this to Mr. Oluwadegborowa now. I'm sure you want to react to some of the things that you've heard from him, adding that reaction to the fact that some police officers, retired police officers that we've had here, have also said there is minimal supervision of the activities of some of these people, especially SARS, that's just been disbanded.
Yeah, thank you very much. I must say clearly that we need to get some historical perspective concerning the mentality of the police force that we have presently. That police force metamorphosed from the colonial force of subjugation and occupation. During the period of agitation for independence, the British colonialists were using the police to oppress our people, to chase them to collect tax forcefully, to stop them from expressing themselves, to stop them from agitation for independence. So that is the police that has been inherited. That's why the word force is added to Nigeria police. Force, in the understanding that the police do not believe that you have any right once you are in the police station or you are a suspect. And the leaders have allowed that to continue because they are benefiting from it. Our leaders allowed the police to go to run riot because it pays them to use that entity to subjugate civilians, to deny people their rights. Because when you have a police that is civil, that is lawful, that is orderly, impunity will come to an end. Citizens will become more likely to resist all manner of oppressive policies and programs. So the government is deliberately, I can say, encouraging the police to continue the way it is because it pays those who are in office, the governors, the commissioners, our public officers, to continue to have a police force that subjugates the people and do not allow them to express their rights, so that people's land will be taken, people's rights will be denied without any question at all. Now, coming to the issue that you have raised.
Before you respond to that,
in which police...
Pardon me, we need to go to break, but we'll come right back to that point when we return in a moment. Please stay with us. Welcome back. Mr. Dugbera, please go ahead and make the points.
Yeah, so the point I make is that we must find a way to get the police to embrace investigation, to embrace community policing, to embrace law enforcement through gathering of intelligence. You do not need to torture anybody to investigate crime. And so long as we perpetuate that system, the force will continue to be against the masses of our people. A policeman will not torture a commissioner. The policeman will not torture a governor. When the governor goes to the police station, he goes with senior advocates, he goes with lawyers, and he's not forced to write confessional statements. What the youths are saying, and you need to go to the police stations to confirm this, is that, you do not allow people their rights in terms of subjugating them, in terms of denying them the basic rights in terms of engagement with the police. So intelligence should be the mode of investigation. If you suspect somebody as having committed a crime of Yahoo or any other thing, the BVN is available, the facilities are available. The police should be equipped in such a way that you don't need to torture these youths, you don't need to badge on them, you don't need to deny them their basic rights in order for you to get around investigation. That's one. Number two is this. We have society where we must encourage younger people to excel. I mean, you can imagine if the founder of Facebook were to be in Nigeria, he would have been rotting in custody for a long time because people probably would not believe that he could have such idea. And you look at what happened to Hush Puppy. For 4 years, the police in America were trailing him. 4 years. He was never arrested for 1 day until they were able to gather enough evidence and then they proceeded against him. Even when he saw the evidence against him, it was clear the game was up. So I think that's what we're encouraging for the Nigerian security agencies, to respect the rights of our people. Now, this protest that is going on currently, we must encourage the government to deal with the protesters in the best civil way that is recognized worldwide. Because it's not only in Nigeria, in some other climes, protests lasted for a year. In some other climes, protests lasted for as long as the people could sustain it. And in 2012, a similar protest like this against oil subsidy lasted several days and was supported by those who are in government now. And they were at Toyota buying food and supporting people. So as long as the protesters can sustain this peacefully, government should not do anything to disperse them. Government should not do anything to discourage them, but to engage them and listen to them and give them the kind of answers that we require. And that answer is very simple. And it's unfortunate that Mr. Additional did not get that opportunity to address the issue. The situation of the mood of the country now requires some kind of effort at healing wounds. The victims of the SARS should have the opportunity to get some kind of apology from the authorities, the police authorities, the government authorities. they must have a kind of independent commission that people can go to and register their complaints and be sure that there will be investigation and there will be justice. Unless we get to that level, we cannot expect that this protest will go away soon. And it's important we do it very quickly.
You know, there's this website that was put up for people to share their experiences with SARS and police, and reading through it, you'd see the amount of pain a lot of people have gone through in the hands of some of these officers. But Mr. Makolo, Mr. Adigbora raised some issues which I'd like to take you up on. First, regarding protests. Now, we've seen, policemen shoot live rounds at protesters. Well, there was a case of the hot water, using water cannons and all that. But I'd like to get the understanding. What is the brief policemen get before going out for protests? Are they meant to go with live rounds, live bullets, or something else? Because we see this happen in other countries, and we see how protesters are treated. So you wonder, what is the kind of brief policemen get here?
Well, police engagement is civil, as far as I know. I was there for 30-something years, and I know police is very civil. The only problem we have is the government ready to re-equip the police with manpower, with logistics? The police has the system of a civil police service commission and the office of the Inspector General of Police. Are they working together cooperatively? If these processes are abused, if they are neglected, then we don't have much to solve when problems arise. What I'm saying is the legislature should be able to envisage this problem and make law, so that they will be able to expand the scope of what my colleague is calling investigations and intelligence.
That's taken, but I'm speaking specifically about protests. If you can hear me, I'm speaking specifically about protests. How should policemen handle protests? Should they go to protests with live arms? Should they go to protests with a shield? Or what? Because, like I said, we have seen cases. In fact, Amnesty International said 10 people have been killed so far in this, this spate of protests that we've seen over the days. So the question is, what kind of brief do policemen get before they go out for protests?
They have intelligent briefs, like giving instructions. Don't be brutal, engage politely. But the people you are talking to, it depends on their level of education. If their education is poor, there's no brief you'll give them that they will make perfect of. So that means that the government should be ready to re-equip, get the police to bring in more men, more educated, better qualified people. And
so,
what I said about NGOs, there are NGOs in vigilante groups. Bring in these vigilantes so that
in other words,
does not have the problem.
If we get your point, are you suggesting that if they don't bring in better educated people, you can change the name for as long as you want, you may likely get the same results?
Yes. Training background before training is very, very important.
That was a yes, right?
I was a degree holder before I entered as a cadet ASP. While in the force, I read up to master's degree. I cannot be compared to the one who came in from the ranks. So I have a better temperament to be able to cope with whatever situations, and that is what is required. If the police has the capacity to depend on the quality of officers and men they have, of course they will handle protests better. But if you don't give that a priority, then you are likely to have brutality. It's a pity brutality has been in the forefront. But from what I knew, politeness is what it should be. So then you engage people and you discuss with them. You find out what is their problem.
Well, I hope that point
should be ready to listen.
Well, that's a valid point that perhaps everyone should note. So the entry level perhaps for police should change if we need to get better results moving forward. But let me bring in Mr. Adegberowa on this one. There's this press release which was signed by Colonel Sagir Musa, who is the acting director, Army Public Relations, which was published on sent out on the 14th of October, and it was titled, "Nigerian Army remains resolute to the peace and stability of the nation." And it reads, "The Nigerian Army wishes to reassure law-abiding citizens that it is highly committed to the sustenance of peace, security, and defense of democracy in Nigeria. As a responsible law-abiding organization, the Nigerian Army reaffirms its unalloyed loyalty and commitment to the President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, President Muhammadu Buhari, and the Constitution of the country. The Nigerian Army hereby warns all subversive elements and troublemakers to desist from such acts, as it remains highly committed to defend the country and hard democracy at all costs. The Nigerian Army is ready to fully support the civil authority in whatsoever capacity to maintain law and order and deal with any situation decisively. All officers and men are directed never to be distracted by anti-democratic forces and agents of disunity." Mr. Adegberowa, how does this come across to you?
I think it's most unfortunate coming from the Nigerian Army at this time. The Constitution is very clear in Section 14. Sovereignty belongs to the people of Nigeria, not the Army, not the President. The loyalty of the Army is to the people of Nigeria, even though we have a President and Commander-in-Chief. It is the people of Nigeria that is paying the Army through their taxes and their sweat. And the loyalty of the Army should be to the people of Nigeria, to democracy, and to civil authority. So to that extent, there is no locus for the Nigerian Army to be issuing threats to Nigerian citizens. It's totally uncalled for, it's uncharitable, and indeed is condemnable. And that should be withdrawn and replaced with a statement that assuages the current tempo that is going on in the country. The Army should not incite the circumstance, and it should be held accountable for any untoward action that happens in the course of this protest. We do not envisage a situation whereby the Army will be involved in this current protest. What we have seen has been civil. These youths have been very matured. They have been very, very cooperative, and they have shown that they actually are interested in engaging with the government. So the provocation should not come from the government. This statement is needless. But however, I must appeal to all the organizers of the protest. There must be some genuine ideological bent towards the protest. There must be something that we can hold on to, that this is your demand, and those demands must be addressed to the various protest zones across the country, in Benin, in Kano, in Abuja. So wherever they choose to gather, in the Lekki Toll Gate, at the Unity Fountain, the government should send policemen there without arms to protect them, simply to protect them. That is the responsibility of the Nigerian government under the Constitution, not to be issuing threat against them. And then contrary to what my friend said here, the police has not changed in terms of interfacing with protesters. I was part of a similar protest in 1993 when we were demanding for the actualization of June 12. And when we got to Ojota Bridge, we were rounded up and taken to Area F, where they had a place where they call German cell. And I was hung from head down with a rope, beaten up with late Chima Ubani. It's still the same method. It was just by the grace of God that I didn't die. It's still the same method. And all we did then was just to protest, to say government had no right to cancel June 12 election. And we were flogged throughout the night. I never could lie down. We were made to sit together and facing ourselves, raising our hands to our head, while lashes were going on our backs with a naked skin, until I was taken to the German cell and my head was hung with a belt, for protest. And he said the same method. that is going on. I insist that we need a total reformation of the. It's not just SARS; it's within the entire police cadre, such that any Nigerian that finds himself in any police station is deemed to be guilty as charged. And the police are not interested in listening to any other story. Now you can confirm that by going to the courts where criminal trials are going on. Virtually 80% of criminal trials, there is always a trial within trial, in which the defendant is challenging the confessional statement. Because that's what the police is up to all the time. They force people to make confessional statements and then file bogus charges, only for you to get to court and discover that these statements were made through systems of torture beyond voluntary confession. And that's still what is happening, and I think it should change. But I must also add that it's important that we encourage government to fund the police, because except you get to a stage where the finances of the police can be sufficient to take care of the responsibility that they have, you cannot erase the scenario you painted about POS and extorting money. The truth is that the police is neglected. That is the reality. And that translates to some kind of transferred aggression to the people. The police is taking over civil matters of resolving land dispute, landlord and tenant cases, just as a way of making ends meet, because they know once they resolve these matters, something will come to the police from the complainant. And that shouldn't be at all. The government should take over the funding of the police and be more serious about it. Thank you.
All right, then we also do thank you for your time, Mr. Ebonlu Adegboro, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. Well, we also do have some gentlemen joining us, and ladies as well. Timitope Majekodumi, he's on the ground in one of the protest areas. We don't know which of the train, which of the venue. Well, we'll go ahead and find out from him. Good morning, and thank you for joining us, Timitope. What area are you now?
We are Alausa Bega presently.
Okay, so what's the current thinking about the protest? Having heard the announcement of end of the formation of SWAT and the directions, the explanations that the police have given that no personnel from SARS will be part of SWAT. They are trying to make everyone believe, or telling everyone, that it will be a clean slate from SARS.
You can come again. I can't hear that.
Do people accept the SWAT because they've said that SWAT will be completely different from SARS?
The people that do not accept SWAT, it's from SARS. Maybe if the government or the police, as it were, have been very intelligent to use to other demands that are more pressing. We are not saying SWAT is bad completely. We are saying the timing is wrong. You cannot prioritize changing the name, SWAT above compensation, justice. They are taking us for a joke. That is what we are saying as a youth. The IG, the presidency, they are taking us for a joke. We could see that the governor of Lagos State went to Abuja 2 days ago, and he was with the president. While briefing the president on live TV, the president.
Just, pardon me, we missed the last part of your response. If you could just go over that again. You were talking about when the governor of Lagos met with President Muhammadu Buhari. If you could just go over that before putting the next question, briefly.
So, sir?
Temitope, can you hear me? Okay, if you can hear me, we lost the concluding part of your response. You were talking about the governor of Lagos meeting with President Buhari. So please just conclude that.
Our flight to the president to brief him we need as a people. And the governor, we could see that the governor from Lagos, from all across the world, and we could see that the president, that he has set up the first one, and all that at that moment is to laugh at us. That is berating. That is That is why we still insist. Sovereignty is not to the any person in government. It is to us. We are how to exercise this. We are how to demand what is ours as a people.
Okay, if we could just step back a bit. By the way, apologies to our viewers for the audio. He's at the venue of the protest, so there's a lot of noise and there might be some noise cancellation. But let me talk about, let's just step back a bit and take the demands in context, just in case some people have missed this. So this current protest that is going on now, of course, simultaneously across the state and across the country, what are the latest demands? Have they changed? Are the demands still the same? Can you just briefly walk us through?
The demand has not changed. To know that our demand, but it's an standard. We may have flagged protest as NSAS, NSWAS, or whatever it is at the moment. If they need to do an holistic.
It's understandable. I mean, when you are out there in the field. Okay, well, talk about we seem to be losing you. It fades off and back. But what we'll do, we'll try and see if we could just try that connection again before it ends, if you do have the time, such that we could get some other perspectives from you. But we also do have Nika from Lekki this morning. Good morning, Nika. Well, hey, what's happening behind you? You're not in the field. Where are you? You're in Lekki, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm lucky. I had to stay back because you guys reached out to me that I needed to do this interview. So
Okay.
we've been at Lucky since Friday. I had to stay back. So I'm at home. I'm at my home office now. Hello, Nigerians. Hello, everybody.
All right, we appreciate that. So what is the current thinking
Can you hear
now?
me?
Yes, we can hear you. What is the current thinking? What do the protesters want now?
I think the major problem is that the protesters are angry at the response of the government. Because, every time when we come out to talk about this issue, the government says we will sort it, we will do it, and at the end of the day, they end up not doing it. So now we've given you our 5 for 5. The government has tried to also release some of the arrested protesters. I will state some because there are still some states where the arrested protesters are still held. But we also have 4 other demands to be met. And all we've seen is our president coming to say we are going to reform the police, we are going to start a process, but we want to see those actions. We've seen the living conditions of the police force. It's not palatable. It's not encouraging. If these people are comfortable, I am very sure that Nigerians would be comfortable. So our problem is just very simple. Meet our demands and put actions to it. Give us legislative and executive orders that the whole Nigerians will see that this has been implemented. The same way they banned Okada, the same way they've banned a lot of things in Nigeria, and we've seen those actions happen. We also want to see these actions happen in real life. Yeah.
Some would also say that, just as I think we were listening to Mr. Additional the other times, that some policies have already been put out, but as many people have also said, both in government and otherwise, you probably may or may not agree with it. So what do you say to those who say that, look, the policies have been put out, it's going to take time, a little bit of time, for those things to become actionable? Processes, funding, and all those things need to be put in place. What do you say to that, and how do you think that might be able, if at all, assuage the youths?
I am before joining this life, I watched Mr. Additional speak, and I was so disappointed in what he said. I expected him to say more. Now, if we hear that there is an armed robbery case that happened in so place, you see that the police takes action immediately, or like a bank robbery. Let's say the bank robbery, because we always see that the police are always available for the bank robberies, and immediately you see them charging them to court. A policeman arrests you on the road, you get to the police station, the first thing they tell you is, if you're not complying to what we say, we charge you to court. So if you have issues like that and they are charged immediately to court. So what happens to those policemen that have killed innocent protesters, innocent citizens? Why haven't they been charged to court? That's the question. So, and these are our 5 of 5 demands. It's not hard. What happens to the justice for the deceased victims? We saw a lady in Enugu cry, saying 3 of her brothers, not 1, not 2, 3 were killed. No justice, no investigation, nothing done. So if the police force could take immediate actions when they arrest you and they come to their station, the Nigerian government should take those actions immediately. You can't tell me it will take time to get justice for the deceased.
Okay, we'll come back to that point that you raised in a moment, but let's quickly bring on, because we've since been joined by Mr. Nazir Galadanchi from Abuja. He's the National Coordinator, Citizens Action for Good Governance. Good morning. Thank you for joining us. Well, of course, we still have the former AIG there with us. Mr. Galadanchi, is it your team that were disrupting the protest yesterday, the group called ProSAS? Is that the team that you represent?
No, sir. Good morning, all. My name is Nazir Galadanchi. I represent Citizens Action for Good Governance. As the name connotes, we are for good governance. We're not for disrupting a protest. And if I could reintroduce myself, I'm also an activist. I'm also a protester. I'm also a conscious Nigerian who have rights, who believes in democracy, who believes in good governance, who also ensures that there should be a peaceful environment for everybody to do their business and carry on their life. To come back to your questions,
what are you protesting against?
We're not involved in any confrontation.
What are you protesting against?
And we're not protesting against anything, but we are affirming our position that we support the Nigerian police effort to continue to protect our country, to continue to protect Nigerians, and to ensure that Nigerian law and order remains, and Nigeria is peaceful enough for business to thrive, for people to live in harmony, and not to allow Nigeria to be crime-filled and with a lot of antisocial activity going on. So our position is that, one, we still are not okay with the dissolution of SARS.
We'll go to break, but just hang on a minute. When we come back, we'll let you read out your position. Don't go away. Welcome back. Mr. Galadanchi, you were making a point. You say first you're not happy with the dissolution of SARS, and you were going to read out your position. Could you go ahead, please?
Yes, our organizations, and from my extraction, the part of this country where I come from, we're not happy the fact that SARS was dissolved, because the very first day after the dissolution of SARS, there was a very bad armed robbery attack in Bauchi State. We got a lot of death cases and a lot of people badly injured. We also got a banditry attack in Katsina State.
We're just seeing live pictures now of some incident, some disruption with that protest in Alausa, Ikeja. We understand that there some persons are shooting at some of the protesters there right now. What's going on there?
It's a very terrible situation. We have people being mobilized in the cutlasses and all forms of harmful stuff.
Well, talk about your safety is of importance, safety of everybody else participating or wherever they are. So we do hope that you need to be careful as well as everybody else. So you need to be safe first before you can give an interview. So we'll let you just get yourself at least in a good position or safe position before we can come back to you. But Mr. Galadanchi, concerning the points you were making about the robbery, but Isn't that insensitive to some of those who their families have been affected by the activities of SARS, which, by the way, government has said the demands are genuine? And besides, there has been robbery previously. There will always be that kind of scenario. How then do you justify that as your reason for not being happy with the dissolution of SARS?
Firstly, we believe and Nigerians have rights to air their opinions, and we are also aware of some excesses and overzealousness of certain police officers in line of duty. They actually have rules of engagement. Unfortunately, not everybody behaves the same in every institution. Even in a family settings, there are bad eggs. There are those who give the family bad names. And then we've gotten assurance from the Inspector General of Police, from the President, that these bad eggs, those who are caught abusing human rights and engage in extrajudicial killings, are going to be prosecuted and to face the law. Now, if we come back up north, we've experienced serious police intervention in issues that concerns armed robbery, kidnapping for ransom, ethno-religious crisis, banditry. Police have really helped us. Now, the dissolution of SARS has created a very wide vacuum that has given criminals and criminality free room to operate. And so far, you've seen a lot of activity happening. Certain period of time, yes, it occurs in isolated cases, but now it's actually happening on a daily basis. We are at the receiving end.
Mr. Galadanchi,
we also like to...
At the moment, it says there's a formation of SWAT, but we'll come back to some of the points that you raised in a moment. But we also like to put it out there that security agencies may need to take a look at what is going on, but it hasn't been established who are those shooting, at least from here. So we're trying to find out who are those with cudgels and machetes. So the police, wouldn't they be required to move in there and arrest those persons, especially when the government has said, look, this agitation is genuine. If they are peaceful protesters, why attack? So if people are attacking other people, isn't that when the authorities should then move in?
Also underscores what has been said frequently, which is the fact that, look, we need to keep this civil and that it should not be allowed to be taken advantage of. But let me take the issue further with Nick Fowe. You've heard our studio guest in Abuja. How do you respond to what you heard him say? Nick Fowe, can you hear me?
It looks as if they've come to the field.
Okay. All right, well, let me take this back to the Abuja studio then. Well, Mr. Galadanchi, it is interesting because many people listening to you will probably be wondering, have you ever been a victim of SARS?
Yes, I have on 2 occasions experienced the good and the bad of SARS. First occasion, I like to use this opportunity to recognize Inspector Aruna Kadiri, Inspector Garba Musa. They helped me recover a stolen amount of almost about 8 million naira from a trusted person who I met on the doing this Uber business. And
just one moment. Just one moment. Yes, Mr. Galadanchi, it's now understood that, I mean, you have been a victim, so you have a good understanding of what is going on. But, well, Nick Fowe, you heard him speak the other time. What's your take, first of all, very quickly, on what's going on? You know, what you have heard and what is going on in Alausa that we reported earlier?
The thing is, it's our constitutional right to protest peacefully, and which we've been trying to do since last week. But I'm very sad that you have people coming constantly trying to disrupt this peaceful protest. Nigerians have behaved themselves accordingly throughout, but every time it's either we're having the police force coming in, or we're having the military, or we're having hoodlums, or we're having pro-SARS people coming in. Like, look at what happened in Abuja yesterday. A lot of cars were boggled. A lot of properties were destroyed. People were hurt, and we are not bringing out guns. We are not bringing out cutlasses. We are just coming to air our voices. I have been a victim of SARS. I'm driving a white Venza and it's tinted. They feel I'm a Yahoo boy. They stop me. They ask me, Madam, your particulars. And the funniest thing is, these people stop you without any form of identification. They don't even stop you inside a SARS vehicle. They go in and you see them in a white bus and they come down there.
Okay.
Even in
Our
their
life
bus,
is under
they are
threat.
asking you this question.
Well, just one moment. Just one moment, Nike. Just one moment, Nike. Let's quickly go back to Temitope Majekodunmi. Please go on very, very quickly, Temitope. What's going on?
What we have is the same scenario of yesterday, that we had South demobilized to come and attack us. Now we have them in multiples. They have changed. These are not people protesting. These are not people protesting.
Where are you now? Have you been able to locate yourself to a safe place? What's going on now? What's going on? Where are you right now?
We are all scattered. Everybody is only looking for us. We are all scattered.
What about the policemen?
They
Do you
are
have...
gone and all of it.
Well, what about the men from the police force? Do you have protection? Can you cite any of them around?
On ground. We don't have any protection.
Is that a police vehicle beside you there?
Sir?
Is that a police van beside you or behind you?
There's no police van here. This is just security van. This is Magodo security van protecting us. It is Magodo police van that is securities that are protecting us now. We don't have police on ground.
Oh, well, we're
We
speaking
don't
with...
have police on ground. And this has been lasting for another 20-30 minutes.
Well, yet again, Temitope Majekodunmi on the scene of a protest around the Alausa area of Lagos. He has had to remove his shirt that has the inscription of, the protest and their demands just to stay safe. He says hoodlums, thugs in their multiples are attacking them at this moment. And you just heard him say there are no policemen around, and we understand that policemen are meant to be on ground to protect protesters in the country.
Yeah, well, one wonders, Nike, what is your thinking now? I mean, you were supposed to eventually go out today to join the protest. Are you still going to make that move? What's your thought now?
Still go out, because kudos to the policemen, police station. They've been there last week to protect us in Lekki Toll Gate and also in Ikoyi Bridge. So I'm going out today. Immediately after this interview, I am going out to lend my voice, and I must be there today, because for Lekki Toll Gate, there's been a lot of sanity there. You could see youth rejoicing, no incidents of theft, no incidents of oppression, no incidents of hoodlums coming in, and it's really safe in the Lekki Toll Gate Center. And I'm going there. And I must applaud the Maracay police station for making sure that the citizens at Lekki Toll Gate is safe. They are doing their job. They are not intimidating us, but they are protecting us. So I'm definitely going to be at Lekki Toll Gate after this interview.
All right, Nike, we do thank you for your time and your thoughts. We do hope that you all stay safe while you are out there.
Well, we have the Managing Director of Nigeria Railway Corporation to talk to us a little more on a number of things going on in that sector, Mr. Fidet Okiria. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Well, of course, promises have been made. Some activity have actually picked up in the railway sector. But what's the latest now that people need to know to appreciate the work being done?
Yeah, good morning, Nigerians. Thank you for this opportunity to talk to Nigerians once more. As we are all aware, the Abuja-Kaduna train service is ongoing. And by the end of the month, we'll be moving from 8 trips a day to 14 trips a day. As we talk now, they are loading the 2 motor cars at Papalanto, and they hope to leave this evening. And that will take us 2 weeks to get to Idu in Abuja. And
let's go on.
Tomorrow, Friday, we intend to start the train service on the Takbe on commercial basis this time, not on the trial run.
All right. When you say it's going to be increased to 14, 2 months ago, the comments attributed to you were that they were going to be 16, and that they were perhaps supposed to have happened maybe in August, September. Could you tell us what was responsible for the delay, and what's the assurance we have that the January 2021 that the minister spoke about is sacrosanct?
The one I talk about is Abuja Kaduna 14 trips.
Okay.
Is the Lagos Ibadan that is going to be 16 trips a day.
Okay.
And we hope to start that either the last week of November or first week of January. That is to give more room so that the contractor can conclude what they are doing at the station building.
Well, there are other issues. Well, I'm sure we're still going to talk about this, but then there are other authorities, rail authorities, if we can say that, states and some other sectors. Abuja, for instance, they're talking about their own light rail. Lagos is talking about light rail. What kind of partnership, if any, do you have with those other subnationals?
Okay, what we do is to encourage the states to do the light rail, while the federal is concentrating on the national rail that can cross from state to state, from city center to production center. While we are partnering with the state, like in Abuja, the FCTA is doing the light rail. Lagos is doing also the light rail. At the time, the Port Harcourt, they were doing the monorail. So we try to partner with the state so that they can also be part of the development of the rail industry in Nigeria.
Did you say the monorail in Port Harcourt?
No, the state.
Oh, right.
Did that when the Honorable Minister was the governor. And since then, the construction stopped.
Oh, yeah.
There have not been further any development on that.
Okay.
So we were partnering with them at that time and trying to give them the enable environment and encouragement to do that within the River State.
You know, now that you mentioned that monorail, I mean, looking at it now, you just see the story of a lot of infrastructure development in Nigeria. It begins, but it never comes to fruition, and that's talking about years ago. So do you have an idea what was responsible for that? Are you hearing anything regarding that? Because that is one of many. And when people hear, you know, their plans to boost the rail network, they look at those projects that have been abandoned and they wonder, hope this will not end the same way.
The government have to be disciplined in taking up infrastructural. You don't start and another government come and stop it. So it's a good thing that the present government, what they are doing, is that those beneficial projects, infrastructural projects that they met, they continue and they are concluding them. Abuja Kaduna was not abandoned, Lagos Ibadan was not abandoned, and it worried that 35 years ago started, they ensured that they completed it. This should be an eye-opener for any other government that is coming, that they don't just start and stop. It's one nation, and government move from government to government, and where the other government stops, the other government should be able to continue, and so that Nigerians will get the benefit of having a better infrastructure in place.
But why does it come across, though, as are you making a point for the former governor of Rivers State, who is the current Minister of Transport, also in charge of the supervising the rail, that they should have continued with that Port Harcourt monorail project? Is that what you're doing?
No, it's just the basic fact is the fact that somebody was the governor and started a project that will improve on the people. And they have 2 terms of 4 years, 4 years each, and it has to end. And if the project is not expected to complete the project within that period, we believe that the responsible government should continue from there. And ensure that.
Have you heard the latest argument that the latest government has put in? What are they from your perspective?
No, I've not had any argument. I know that it stopped. So, as a real technocrat, I believe we should. I believe in spreading the gospel of making Nigeria have
Well, there's been argument about that. So they say it wasn't viable, but that's not our focus this morning. But about this Port Harcourt-Maiduguri Railway, which has been approved for the sum of, correct us if we're wrong, 3.02 billion naira. The Minister of Transport says that that will cover about 2,000 kilometers across 6 states, if we're right. That's the statement attributed to him. So how much of this 2,000-kilometer rail will be rehabilitated?
You see, when you are talking about reconstruction, for instance, all the steel sleepers are going to be removed and made concrete sleepers.
Yeah.
The curves, the gradients.
Is it for the entire 2,000
for
stretch?
the entire from the where you have issues of curves, multiple curves, reverse curves, has to be straightened. And it is going to be new tracks from Port Harcourt through the rail park to Owerri.
So the entire thing will be reconstructed as well?
It's going to rail and sleepers will be changed completely.
So, can you put some figures to this? This is a huge amount of money, no doubt. How much volume of trade is this going to take care of from the research analysis that has been done?
So, there is going to be a deep sea port, and the Bonny will be connected, and expect the present congestion in Lagos that people have issues in going to Calabar, Port Harcourt, or Port. They are concentrating in Lagos. I think that will encourage them to move their goods across.
I get that, but
when you have,
I mean, if you're a businessman and you're putting money into a venture, you would have done some analysis saying, look, this is volume of trade that goes on here. So if we put this amount of money, this is what we intend to get. Could you give us some figures concerning that?
You see, I tell people, there is God and there is government. God did not say, I'm going to make money from the air or the rivers or ocean provided. It's for the convenience of the people, and it's for government to organize those things. You see, where we miss is that I think everything government do is to make money. It's for the convenience of the citizen to have better life. You see, in the developed world you say today, there is no difference between socialism and capitalism. They all provide for their people. Even when you finish school, they provide for you.
Is that to say that there has been no analysis whatsoever as to the volume of trade that goes in there that will improve when government completes this contract?
There have been some feasibility study, not been based on necessarily the direct naira and kobo that come from it, but indirect impacts on the people who live within that route, the indirect impact of what you are going to save from reconstruction of roads because of the heavy azo load that are passing on the roads, which cannot quantify in terms of naira and kobo, quite outweigh those factors you are acting about.
You can understand why this is a concern for us, because the government has said time and again that we need to raise revenue. We have a revenue shortfall. So it's just to place this in that context. But on a final note, briefly, when will people start buying tickets online? I mean, if rails are meant to compete with airlines in some sense, airlines, you can buy your tickets online. So when are we having this for rails?
The system is being put in place. The hardware are being fixed. At Idu, Rigasa, Kaduna region, the night stations within that road. I think last week, some of your colleagues were there to interview the company that is partnering with us on the PPP arrangement. They are quite busy, and we hope by November they will deploy the first, people be able to buy tickets online. So we are hopeful that it's going to take place, and the starting point is being able to buy tickets online, which we hope to start in November.
Well, we have to thank you. We wanted to take you up on the Warri-Itakweri rail, which I don't know, very quickly, 10 seconds. Is there anything you want to tell us about that? It's the latest in the network, isn't it?
Yeah, it was commissioned, and unfortunately we had an incident with oil staff oh, we are doing some this AKK work without the necessary approval, and it caused some incident. So, as I said earlier through this discussion, I said we are starting on Friday this week, and the first train, commercial train, will take off from Warri.
All right. We have to thank you very much for your time this morning. Fidel Tukiria, Managing Director of Nigeria Railway Corporation. Thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure.
And thoughts.
Thanks.
Okay, well, there are interesting emails and feedback coming through. Well, let's first take this one before we move on to that crucial one. Adeyemi Yusuf says, what? Mr. Olaji Goladima said, SARS helped him recover 8 million naira from a trusted person. My question is that what the SARS was created for? He says that's the problem with the thinking. Oh, okay, I get the point now.
Well, this one is from Dr. Olusegun Mimiko. Or before that, let's take Atama the Great says, your guest is stingy with the truth. In Kaduna, people are kidnapped almost on a daily basis. Banditries there. The north is a disaster with ineffective policing, he believes.
There are so many comments, but let's close with this one from a Nigerian saw it at a beach in Lagos and posted it. It's a company's organization, posted this. They put up the flags there. That's the swastika. Of course, it's something that promoted the Nazi of those days, and Germany has already banned it. Of course, instantly the company has also promised to veer into the matter and investigate and make sure it's taken out. Of course, since the issue has since been resolved, the flags have been taken down, and of course the person who posted this one has thanked the organization for stepping in to begin the investigation. So,
well, clearly, there is no room for such,
How did it get there in the first place?
Exactly.
That's what the company has decided that they're going to investigate, because it's the company's beach house.
Oh yeah.
So no,
especially because it's beside a Confederate flag, and both of them, what they stand for. So we'll be waiting to hear what the company Julius Berger has to say about this eventually when that particular investigation ends.
That's quite insulting, really. Well, Atama the Great says, your guest, Mr. Nazi, is stingy with the truth. In Kaduna, people are kidnapped almost on daily basis. Banditry is there. The north, said north is a disaster with ineffective policing. Well, everybody's talking about ineffective policing. Well, not just on the north. The entire country wants improved policing across board. There you go. That is the show today. We thank you all for watching. We'll see you again tomorrow. Don't forget, you have to be safe wherever you are. I'm Chamberlain Usong.
I'm Kayode Kikere.
And I'm Ayo Makinde. Please keep safe.